Tis another Friday. Tis another episode of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. We appreciate you being here as we do every Friday. Right over there, Phillip Washington Jr. And today we are talking about nerd math. And I guess the first part of it is, what is nerd math?
Nerd math simply is the math that nerds use to attempt to replace the work of imagination or the creative mind. Said a different way, it's what nerds use to try to control chaos, right? And I'm going to explain what I mean by nerds. Nerd is only using the brain and not the brain and the heart, right? The balanced solution for anything you want to do involves head and heart. But the control freak is the mind. And if you let the mind do it by itself, it's an unbalanced solution, which is what I call nerd math.
And there are several comparisons that you can make. The yin and the yang, the yin and yang, the
imagination and reason.
And you had mentioned on your podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple, the Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel. There's like one, the brothers, right? You even have like angels, demons, God and the devil, right? When you really get deep into it, it's not from my perspective, neither one of them is positive or negative. It's only unhealthy when it's imbalanced.
Right. So let's get into the data of reason versus creating.
Yep. So let's get into it. So reason, right? Here's why you want to work together. What the reason mind does is take in data and make observations, right? It's like going to a buffet and saying, "Oh man, these are all my options," right? I can see, I can observe, I can taste, and I can see what I like. Imagination is like the creative element, right? Which responds through like feeling, right? It's that sixth sense intuition, right? That's the communication platform, but it creates out of the data. And the reason why this is important in investing is what nerd math does. Nerd math is why we have racism, sexism, biases, missed opportunities, because we use past data to project into the future. I mentioned on my podcast one example. I mentioned another example that I experienced in a local establishment. Right. So again, those who listen to this know me to be a very intelligent. I think I'm a wealth manager, so I think I have enough money to spend $300 at a place to eat. Yeah. I'm an ideal customer for lots of establishments. But you also know that I'm a free thinker, so I don't like, you can't put me, I'm unstatistical. Like, you can't put me in a stat, right? And there's a whole lot of, if you read Millionaire Next Door, the whole book is about, you can't put people you can't put people into a stat, right?
Phillip Washington Jr. is his own stat.
Yeah, and all of us are, right? I mean, yeah. I think the fallacy is, if you were to ask 8 billion people, can you find yourself in a stat? They would all say no. But the whole world make decisions on stats, right? Like, it's asinine, right? But that's where you get breakdown decision makings, because, right, you walk into an establishment, they see me, they go, "Oh, we got no seats for you because I look like a troublemaker kid." You know what I'm saying? Like I can't afford the place I'm in, right? But that is a missed economic opportunity for like lots of businesses. That's one example of like using the reason mind instead of observing and balancing it out with like feeling. So here's an example, and I'm gonna give and you can step in if you want to.
Okay, sure.
But the feeling part is the part where you take the observation, and then and the better way to do it is say, all right, because I don't want to. We all have biases, right? So I'm not saying that, but I found my best investment insights into when I observe something, and then I have a negative feeling about it, right? And the negative feeling about it is like information to me from my creative mind to say, there might be opportunity here, right? Because whenever I see something and I have a bias, I go, and if I got a bias, a lot of people got a bias about it too, right? Because where there's bias, there's potential upside.
Yeah.
And so it's using your balanced intuition to say, things are, I know that things are always expanding. I know there's always opportunity. I know that things always work out well over time, right? So this negative feeling, let me explore, let me break my biases and become neutral, and let me go down the path and explore something new, right? And that's the way that, from an investment standpoint, that I break the hold that nerd math has on my mind and use data to open up my mind to see things that most people can't see because they're stuck in their biases.
So in the financial world, in the investment world, as you are traveling down that path of something new, what are the new opportunities as we're traveling down that path?
Yep. So let's talk about Bitcoin mining, right? I think this is going to be huge for cities, states, countries, right? So let's use a city for example. Let's call it a town, right? Because towns are fun. Let's say you got a town of 100,000 people, but it's growing, right? Not too dissimilar to Mansfield, Texas, right? It's growing. You're like, the growth of Mansfield over the next decade is going to be crazy. One of the constraints to growth is energy, right? The reason why we have a problem with the energy grids is you don't want to buy too much energy because it's going to be expensive on the people that are paying for the energy if you buy too much in the contract. But if you buy too little, you don't have the capacity in high load times, right? And so just like it's tough to predict your budget for the year as an individual, imagine how tough it is for a city, a state, a government to predict energy usage over some long period of time when they're buying these contracts. Like, it's next to impossible.
Right.
So let's say city of 100,000 people, town of 100,000 people, they go ahead and buy 10 million worth of energy, right? Which is double what they need, but they want to build some capacity in so that they don't have outages. The people feel good, blah, 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 blah. That's going to end up being $100 a person for the energy cost, right? Don't go nerd on me and like, over what period of time, monthly? It doesn't matter. We're just doing like just.
It's summertime.
It's just something, yeah, just whatever. $100
a person.
Mm-hmm. So that's town A. Town B says, all right, we got 100,000 people too, but we're going to add one extra energy buyer, a Bitcoin miner. And so now we're going to get the same $10 million contract to expand for growth, but we can charge our citizens like $50 or $60 because the Bitcoin miner agreed to buy the other half while we build, and they'll turn off their machines in high load time. So if our math is off, right, it's built into the contract. They'll turn their machines down and allow our citizens to use the energy, right?
Yeah.
Which town do you think is going to attract more businesses, more talent, more people?
Oh, pick me.
Yes, Steve. How about you?
Town B?
Town easily, right? And like, this is not something that is expected to happen in the future. Corsicana is already like an example, and Riot Platform is committed and spending $300 million, right, in Corsicana. It's happening all over the world, but there's plenty of energy, right? There's no between natural gas, oil, wind, sun, all like there's plenty of energy. The constraints were like storage. Well, with Bitcoin miners, you got to store it. They'll just buy it, like just produce it and they'll buy it, turn it into Bitcoin. It doesn't need to be stored. Yeah. Right. And then it can be used by the people who need to use it during peak earning time. So it's just like you had in the 19th century, Houston, Philly, LA, what else? Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, South Korea, Seoul, I think Seoul, South Korea, parts in Australia is one, Leduc, Canada, Tulsa, right? You got all these places that became like economic oases because of energy, right? Low cost energy. Humans, we always follow low cost energy, right? So guess what, towns, right? You're going to have a quote unquote arms race of cities begging Bitcoin miners to invest in their area to become a economic center, and that's right? People say, well, Phillip, why do you own Bitcoin miners? I said, because I see what you don't see. Right? You're still debating Bitcoin. That's not even worth debating anymore.
That's old hat.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about Bitcoin mining?
Yes.
Because Bitcoin mining about 4 or 5 years ago was pretty much done by individuals. That if you've got a computer that can run 24 hours a day, and there was some kid up in the North Dallas who was making some little 12, 13, 14-year-old kid was making $10,000 a month Bitcoin mining. Has it gotten to a point now where Bitcoin mining has become so big it's no longer something individuals do?
Yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money to do it individually. Now you can become part of a pool, so you can there's big companies like a Riot, and they'll say, hey, you pay us money, and then we'll run your machine in our facility, and then we'll pay you a proportion, sort of like a mutual fund, right? Yeah. So we'll pool the money and mine Bitcoin and pay you your portion, right? That's going to be the better way for an individual to mine Bitcoin, right? In addition to what I'm doing, I just buy the Bitcoin miners as a stock, right? But there's multiple ways to do it. But individually mining, you're not going to have enough computing power to compete with the big boys and girls in that space.
Let's, in the minute or so we have left, bring this back to balance the yin and the yang, or the heart and the brain, the Cain and the Abel, and how does this all relate to the Mansfield consumer?
Yeah, it goes back to you have periods of time where art and science work in harmony to create the best future, and we're living through that town. So looking at a filter that only is statistical, right, and built upon observation and looking at past data to protect the future, that's a pessimistic perspective, or at the very least a realist perspective. But that's not how you make money, right? Realists and pessimists don't make money. Optimists do. Yeah. And so if you want to make money, embrace optimism, balance them both. And the sky is the limit on the level of money you can make, for you and your family.
If someone wanted to reach out to Phillip Washington Jr. regarding how to balance their portfolio, how can they reach out to you?
Best way is stonehillwealthmanagement.com. That's stonehillwealthmanagement.com.
And if you were holding the mic, I would have you drop it, but the mic is suspended by a mic stand, so it's not today. That's Phillip Washington Jr. This is the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. We do this every Friday. Phillip, have a great weekend. We'll do it again next week.
You too, Steve. Thanks.
We appreciate you listening to the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. By the way, if you own a business and you are interested in being a part of the Consumer Advice Series, if you have the knowledge to give information in 10-minute increments to the consumers, shoot me an email to info@aboutmansfield.com. Again, that is info@aboutmansfield.com. We'll tell you how we can get you all set up. Appreciate it. We do it again next week right here on the podcast.